you guys for listening to What Happens in This House Stays in This House Strength Over Silence podcast. I have some special guests today. Well, first off, let me say that I have been on air for 1 year. Yeah. So my first time back since my 1 year anniversary. So today, guys, I have some phenomenal guests with me, and we're going to talk about some good stuff. I have first Dr. Michael V. Wilkins, who is the founder and CEO of Spa USA and Spa Theater. And I also have Reverend James Collins, who is a youth minister. Hello, guys. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me to the show again. I'm so glad to be here. I just didn't recall. Did we get to curse on this show or no?
Whatever you want to do. This is Podcast City. Hey, pretty much. Listen, no holds bar.
For Jay.
So first of all, you painted me in the corner here. Because you introduced me with my full Reverend James Collins Jr. You could have just said Jay Collins, Spa Leadership. So now I can't cuss like I want to cuss. I have to give censored profanity. That's acceptable to Christians.
Oh, God. Well, the Christians, listen, I know some people that have made songs. What is that, Bishop Bullwinkle? Hell to the no. So...
Good song.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Right, rest in peace. So, guys, I don't know if you guys watched that TV show with the Godfather of Harlem with Forrest Whitaker. So, in one of his episodes...
Oh, no, I didn't watch that. Sorry.
One of his episodes, he had Malcolm X on there. And Malcolm X gave a speech about the ballot or the bullet. And he gave the speech back on April 3rd, 1964 at Corey Methodist Church in Cleveland. And I thought it was so interesting. I had never heard of it. Other people I talked to had heard about the speech, but I had never heard of it. But he raised some really good, interesting points. And I was thinking, like, aren't we kind of still going through the same stuff about a good 50, 60 years later? So I wanted to have a discussion about it. And I know that I have the two people that will give me their honest opinion, whether we like it or not. So I have you guys on here. So in the speech, let me start off with this. If Malcolm X says, whether you're a Baptist, Methodist, or a Muslim, or a nationalist, whether you're educated or illiterate, whether you live on the boulevard or in the alley, you are going to catch hell just like I am. We are all in the same boat. So my question to you guys, do you think that somehow religion has played a part and a factor in uniting us as a community? Because as it's stated, no matter what religion we are, when you walk down the street, nobody knows what religion you are. They just know you as a Black man. So do you think that sometimes we fail as a community to get unity amongst ourselves because we have all these different religions? Do you think so?
Jay, did you want to go first?
No, Dr. Mike, I'm gonna let you go first. We'll start intelligent and then work our way.
Because some of the things that it's a lot of different things goes on as far as the churches. One of the things that I've always believed is that actually Sunday, as they say, is one of the most segregated days of the week because everybody has their own particular church, their own particular religion. And I think that is somewhat divisive because you don't just have one denomination. So everybody believes what they want to believe in that. So I think that could actually sometimes stop us from coming together as we should, simply because some folks are territorial. They believe if they church ain't doing it, or if you ain't their religion, that you ain't the right one. So I think we have to be very, very careful. But I believe, I know in the past, it was the churches that would do for the communities and help. And that's where we used to have the civil rights meetings and stuff like that, wherever we can get together and do things. I just don't know how effective it is at this particular point. So I do have some issues and concerns in terms of how effective those things are. Stuff we've been doing over and over again, from civil rights protests and marches to, the stuff that's going on today. I just don't know if it is currently as effective as it once was.
Yeah, to piggyback off Dr. Mike, I totally agree. I think one of the things in today's time that makes where we don't have such the same influence that we did back in the civil rights era in the 60s is that the generation gap in the church has basically torn the church apart. Young people don't care about going to church. They have no regard for the church, and I won't even go into why. But that has affected us and standing together for justice, because the young people, the young adults, are not in the church. So even if the church was spearheading, a lot of times that's not what the young people are to even get the message, to go forth. So that I think that's part of the issue for today's times. What you got, Mike, Dr. Mike?
I think that's true. And if you think about that and what he said, actually, even in the civil rights marches back in the 60s and earlier, they actually used kids. Those sitting at the lunch counters and stuff, those were the kids.
Yes.
Participating and doing that stuff. So that's absolutely correct. And if they're not involved in participating, and unfortunately, there seems to be a mentality like, oh, our youth, the lost generation. But if they're lost, we're lost, because they're supposed to be our future. So that means we have some issues. And I totally agree. It's just not like it used to be back in the day. So I think we have to do something different to get those youth involved. And certainly, just like anything, it's not all of the youth, but the majority of the youth are not in church, and they don't have the same concerns or issues that, we're currently dealing with.
So do you think that the youth are like this because, we so-called made it according, we were able to do things that we weren't able to do? Do you think that we no longer gave that to our youth to say, well, listen, this is what everything that we had to go through. We were so busy trying to forget all the things we had to go through. Do you think that was misplaced with our youth today, that they don't have the information of everything that we went through?
Well, I don't know if they don't have the information, but I think it could be a lackadaisical attitude. It could be, you remember back in the day, information was passed down from generation to generation. Right. Our grandfolks told our folks and stuff. Our folks were supposed to tell us and stuff, and even in the Bible, when it talks about, writing those visions down and stuff, and to make sure that the generations that come after you are aware of this stuff. As many of you know, my granddad was very active in the civil rights leaders, the Freedom Riders, Medgar Evers and Fannie Lou Hamer, and all these folks were hanging out at his home. So it's the same thing, that all that stuff that was going on, it just seems that we don't have the same connect today with the children. Even my grandchildren, we take them to the Civil Rights Museum where my granddad is. They're not interested in that stuff. So, but we're trying to educate them and share how important it is, because as we talk about all the time, you don't know your history, then you condemn to repeat it. And that's the problem that I think we're in the midst of right now.
Definitely. Jay?
Hold on before where you go. So another part, and this is my conspiracy theorist coming out of me, but we can't act like there wasn't a specific plan that was put into place and worked well to divide the African-American family. Most of our men have either been to jail, are in jail, or on their way to jail. When I say jail, I mean prison. The prison population back in the 50s and 60s was a few 100,000. It was still predominantly Black and Hispanic, or at that time Black, where we're now into almost 4 million as far as jail population. And then you know how all that went with Bill Clinton when they privatized the jails and it shot straight up. This has changed the Black family dynamic. We don't have the fathers in, no slight against the moms, because they stepped in to take care, but there is definitely a shift in the mental attitude of our young people, I believe, as a direct result in them attacking our family dynamic. And so now we have a generation of young people who don't care. They've been nurtured to death. They don't have a lot of times, and I'm generalizing, they don't have a sense of discipline. They don't have a sense of our history and what it takes, because our women, our mothers and grandmothers have worked to the bone, and they don't know the struggle. They just know the reward.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So I think that has a little bit to do.
And it takes me back to the movie Claudine. If you saw the movie Claudine, you saw that whenever the social worker was coming to the house, the woman had to act like she didn't have a man in the house and pack up everything. So I can agree with that. Yeah.
Jay
Diane
probably
Carroll, James L. Jones. I know. I seen that one. Don't start no stuff. Diane Carroll, James Earl Jones.
Right.
Because you know what? Well, I remember it. I'd never seen working Black people like in love. I had never seen it on TV. I just never seen it before, other than like my mom and dad or my grandparents. And then that was a movie. It's like I just couldn't believe. And I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Absolutely. And what you're saying, being able to see people that look like you in a positive light and do those things, because we were just and regardless to whatever they say or think, the Cosby Show was an epitome of that. Positive Black folks doing some positive things.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Funny you bring it up, because I was in high school when the Cosby Show was out, and I remember the teachers that Friday, because the Cosby Show came on Thursday, having discussions about what had happened on the Cosby Show. It was like an every week thing. And they were comparing, my daughter had the same thing happen. That was, I think, one of the first times where white America really could identify with Black folks. Like we weren't just over on this side. Because they just like us, because we've experienced that too. But of course, that crab in the barrel mentality kicked in. And then you had people saying, that's not even realistic. An attorney and a doctor, that's not even realistic. It's like, it's plenty, just ignorance, that's all.
Right.
All right, guys. So I am going to move forward. We're going to talk a little bit about.
I'm ready for you to set it off. I'm ready.
All right. So here we go about there's an excerpt. He says, I am not a politician, not even a student of politics. In fact, I am not a student of much of anything. I'm not Democrat, Republican, and I don't even consider myself an American. Now, then he goes down to say, sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner unless you eat some of what's on the plate. Being here in America doesn't make you American. Being born here in America doesn't make you American. Why, if birth made you American, you wouldn't need any legislation, you wouldn't need any amendments to the Constitution, and you wouldn't be faced with civil rights filibuster in Washington, D.C. right now. So basically, he's saying, if we are American, why do we have to have all these laws? Because when other people come from other countries, they're considered American. And we are right here, and we still don't have the same rights. Why do you think that is?
Well, let me just say now that, it's fresh on my mind because it's happening right on. What's going on with this Asian hate phase that's going on right now? That's something that it kind of stuck out for me for two reasons. One of which is, first of all, I believe that, stereotype, racism, all of that is just wrong, period. Mm-hmm. But my issue has everything to do with the fact that, you wouldn't have to be saying stop Asian hate, Black Lives Matter and stuff, if they knew that the right thing to do was to treat people right. And my position is, where were the Asians? Where were all these other groups when the Black folks was marching, trying to get rights? It didn't affect them. So as a result, they stayed on the sidelines. Now that it's directly affecting them, now they're starting to see some of the stuff we were talking about. And furthermore, my issue with that particular topic becomes, how is it that for years, Black folks had to march, hold signs, be beat, being lynched, and we still don't have equal rights? But within a couple of weeks after this Asian hate stuff, they passed stuff through Congress just like that in no time at all. So I have issues with these things, that some of the stuff, and it's the same thing with the LGBTQRSTUVWXYZ movement and all of them, because it's the same thing. They're going and like, we need legislation for this. We've been doing this for hundreds of years, and we still don't have the equal rights that some of these groups are beginning to enjoy now. And some of what you just said talked about what would be the need of this legislation if you knew you're supposed to treat folk right, period.
Yes, definitely. Jay?
Yeah, what I would add to that is I'm just as heated as Dr. Mike. First of all, I'm going to insert this little tidbit. The Asian community, a lot of people don't even remember or realize, were really responsible for that entire burning down of LA after the Rodney King situation. because of their treatment of Black folks, and they kept involving the police, and that is what stirred up that melting pot of emotion. Like they try to sweep that under history's rug, but that really was the basis for that whole Rodney King and them burning down LA and the riots. The Asians fanned the flames on that. Now they like you to forget that part. But moving from that, the difference with everybody else, the Asians, the LGBTQ, any other group, they came here as refugees. Our people were kidnapped, terrorized until this very day. And I understand what Brother Malcolm is saying, but goddamn it, I'm an American citizen because it is the blood, sweat, and tears of my ancestors that has made America great. So I ain't going nowhere. Yes, I am. I'm more American than any of these bastards out here because my people is what built up the country.
Right.
That's a true story. Absolutely.
Definitely. And the other thing, to piggyback off you guys, is that we've been trying to get this anti-lynching bill passed, the Emmett Till bill, for a long time. And how does that make us feel as a people? Like, listen, we can still be, we had to have an anti-lynching, as if you have to know not to lynch us.
Damn, I'm telling you, I watched for like 2 hours. They have it on YouTube. CNN was live when Kamala Harris, who was not the vice president then,
right,
and Senator Cory Booker. Cory Booker wept making this plea, trying to get this passed, I think in 2018. And here we are, 2021. We as Black folks are going to have to come together and shut the economy down.
Yes.
If we're ever going to get anywhere. And so I use myself as the example. Y'all know I've been on this personal boycott of vacationing in Florida since Trayvon Martin. But can you imagine if every Black person, Asian person, elemental POQ, all them, if everybody decided for the summer of 2021, nobody's going to Florida. We will not patronize Disney, Universal. I know we can get it done. Look what we did with the bus boycott.
Yes,
absolutely,
definitely.
And I think Jay is really hitting it where it is, and he's probably purposely trying to get my blood boiling because true, the economic stuff. At the end of the day, you see how you want, but you hit them in a pocketbook.
Yes,
that's going to make a difference. And one of the things that came to my mind when he was talking about this, the churches have to accept responsibility for this stuff as well, because here it is in the churches still, they collect whatever they collect on these Sundays. They take this money and they put it into a white bank. And the white bank takes this money and go and lend it out to other developers and other white folks that's going to do the gentrification to kick you out of your neighborhood while denying you as a Black person a freaking loan. So you better believe that if we understand the power of our economics, because Black folks are the greatest consumers. We buy stuff, but we don't own that. Yes. So we buy a bunch, so we want to buy bling bling and all of this stuff, but we don't own nothing. But if we got together and knew the power of our economics, that would change a lot of things significantly. We don't have to go around marching and begging to eat at your counter while you in the back spitting in our food. So and demanding those particular things. So it's absolutely ridiculous that here in 2021 we still asking for the same freaking things we're asking for in the 60s. That's crazy.
Yes, definitely. And it goes back to say the reverse discrimination, that Black people, we cannot be discriminated against anybody because we do not have the economic power.
Absolutely. And that's a myth that a lot of folks don't know. There's no such thing as reverse discrimination. We don't sit there have the power to do these particular things and control the economic status of stuff and keep them out of homes and red line district them and all of that. So they need to know, because they hear stuff don't make it so. But you have to understand the power that we have. If we start, they have statistics all day about how the Asians spend the money in their community. And I know this to be the truth because most of them live in Chinatown, but they come out, they shops are all over in your neighborhood, and they take their money right back to Chinatown. They spend their money in Chinatown. And here we are, the money from our communities go to every other community except for ours.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I was just thinking about that today. You can go into the Hispanic neighborhoods And I thought about Chinatown. You will see El Supermercado. You'll see Chinese writing for restaurants and shops.
Yes.
You go into, I mean, aside from a soul food restaurant or a greasy spoon, you really don't really see Black businesses like that.
No.
Right.
And of course, I'm just a firm believer. We as a people have been conditioned and trained from slavery to be and act a certain way. And it has just trickled down through the generations. And we don't even know why we do stuff we do a lot of times. I was just telling them yesterday at church about the whole Sunday's best and how we get dressed up to go to church. It's like that stemmed from slavery. The slave masters would dress the slaves up to show them off when they went to church.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's divided us. So we look down on young people who want to come to church with jeans and gym shoes on, not even realizing where we got Sunday's best from. It's like, come on, y'all. We need to know, like Dr. Mike always says, know our history, because we don't know it. And it's been purposefully withheld from us. We are going to repeat and keep repeating.
Yeah, and not only that, but not only was it withheld, but then it was twisted and changed, simply so that we would never know who we truly are and the greatness that we
Definitely. Possess. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So y'all, we're about to turn it up a little bit more. We're going to talk about voting.
Wait, hold on. Because what Dr. Mike is saying, do you understand how traumatized I was when I did research and found out Abe Lincoln was not the hero that I was taught from school?
Exactly.
That they didn't teach me Fred's significance. I knew his name, but the significance in the so-called freedom. And I saw Dr. Mike's newsletter today with free-ish. I'm gonna have that made into a shirt. That's brilliant.
Oh, I did the newsletter, Jay.
Oh, did you? Oh my God.
Because that's what we are. We're free-ish. We not free.
And it's more ish than free. Yeah.
Right. All right, guys. So we're gonna turn this up a notch about voting. Now we already talked about economics. So it says he made a statement that they are realizing that there are new political trends from coast to coast. As they see these political trends, it is possible for them to see that every time there is an election, the races are so close that they have to have a recount. Sounds like today. Back in the day, they had to recount Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Minnesota. And said, well, what does this mean? It means that when white people are evenly divided and blacks have a block of votes of their own, it is left up to them to determine who's going to sit in the White House and who's going to be in the doghouse. So basically what they're saying is, when it boils down to it, our votes matter, because they're going to go around kissing babies when it's time. They come to our churches for a reason. So we do matter. So what do you think we can do? Do we hold our votes? We can't hold them hostage, because then anybody's going to get it. So what do we need to do to change this? Because they know we need our votes, but they just don't want to listen to us when they get in. They don't have to do anything else but just come and kiss our babies at that time.
Well, see, one of the things is about what you just said. They need our votes to get in. Mm-hmm. They're in line right there, because they only show up during that particular time to the communities, make promises that they have no intentions on keeping. Mm-hmm. And how often do we have to fall for the same old okie doke freaking time when we're dealing with this? Because first of all, stop voting for them. Vote for your folks in your community. Get them in some representation that'll change some of this nonsense. But on the other side of that is the issue of some of them get opportunity to get into office, and then they start doing some of the same nonsense that's been going on forever. So it is an issue. I think voting is important. In my house, you got to vote or you can't be in my house, because of the stuff that we had to deal with my grandfather and civil rights and things like this. So that's an important issue to me. But then again, the other side, because we hear kids sometimes talk about, well, who to vote for? They're all crooked, or they're all this or that. And some of that has some truth to it. But what we have to do is understand, many times folks not even interested in voting unless it's a presidential election, because you see all the nonsense. But the local elections are just as important, because it's the local places that's going to be making your rules, raising your taxes, and doing stuff which they tend to neglect. Do you know it's a fact that not only the Republicans but the Democrats, they all know they count on a certain segment of the society not voting. And we know who that is. Mostly Black folks, mostly young Black folks. So they count on you not voting. So some of this nonsense that's going on with these voter suppression laws today is totally aimed at the fact that in some places they have been now able to gather folks together and get African Americans out in numbers that they hadn't seen before. And that's Stacey Abrams in Georgia is doing some phenomenal stuff. They should be very afraid because she's phenomenal. And they stole the election from her, but that's a different topic. So the thing becomes that we have to understand, and not only do we need to come together for this, but we need to come together with folks that we can promote. Jay will be a great politician, so let's vote for him.
Yes.
And let me just say what Dr. Mike said. Part of our issue in the Black community, I don't care if it's from the church house to the White House, we have got to hold our leaders accountable. We don't hold them accountable in the church. We don't hold them accountable in the precincts, in the wards, in the districts. We have got to do better and require more of our leadership. And that's one thing Malcolm said that I agree with. If we got together and start voting our people in, it would crumble. That's why I'm so glad that Kim Foxx, who was the Cook County State's attorney, won the second term, because I watched, I was in criminal law forever. And I knew what to watch for. That Jussie Smollett, I said from the beginning, I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. I don't care, but I know they didn't have the evidence. So don't waste my tax money on this nonsense. And she didn't. White folks got upset because this was a Black man that got off. They was trying to pin something on him and they couldn't. And she stood her ground. I know how it would go. If the feds, they sent a special federal team in, if y'all remember, if they had something, they would have. It's like, come on, don't do it. But all that was a ploy to take back that top spot from that Black woman.
Yes, definitely.
But Lori Lightfoot assured that he's going to get off. Why? Because she fired the chief that was over the investigation. Why did she fire him? Because he kept falsifying reports. That's all I'm going to say.
and we need to know what happened. It is a lot of the stuff we just don't know, but the thing is that with all the things going on, and they do, and it's been happening for centuries and generations, and it's a sleight of hand. They want you to look at this stuff, so you don't look at the stuff that's really going on. So we have to be about that, and we have to accept responsibility ourselves, because what Jay said is absolutely true. We have to hold these folks accountable, and if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, what we put them in office to do, we need to get rid of them.
I'm in a conference thing.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why when everybody was talking about surviving R. Kelly, I didn't want to hear about it. What y'all doing while y'all trying to get everybody's attention?
Yes.
And it's been a whole thing, surviving this one, surviving that one. Like, what you got going on underneath? Because if you remember, when Trump got in, see, I'm always like one of two only Blacks wherever in that work. Everybody, he'll never get the nomination. He got the nomination. Yes, he'll never win. 4 years. I knew he was going to win. I knew because he capitalized off poor white trash. Now, it's probably not PC to say that, but it is what it is. And them rednecks and stuff, him bailing out people who have jumped on Black folks, and he have it on camera during these little rallies, and he bailing them out of jail. Y'all knew this and still let him in. So I wasn't surprised by nothing he did. He showed you who he was before he got in there. Yeah. But before he wanted to run, he was questioning Obama's nationality to even be president.
Yeah.
Right.
You and Miss Russia, USA, that's your wife. Like, will you get somewhere and sit down?
All right, guys. So we're going to get back into boycotting.
All right.
After talking about that. So if we own our own stores, if we operated the businesses, if we try and establish some industries in our own community, do you think that, I think you guys were talking about it before, that if we controlled the economy in our own community, let me backtrack. Do you think that when we were segregated at that time, when we had our own stuff, that was the best ploy for us?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Honey.
Go ahead, Jay.
I'm going to just say this. We just celebrated, and I shouldn't even say celebrated, we just acknowledged the centennial of the Black Wall Street Massacre.
Yes.
Not only was this a community of African Americans who were smart, who were thriving, who were rich. Everybody was coming to gather the resources and the opportunity. We weren't bothering nobody, but what happened? The good old white folks couldn't let us be. Yes. They weren't satisfied till they destroyed it all. And it wasn't just Black Wall Street. If you go down to Florida and Rosewood, there are, I think, about 33 noted instances, because we know it's more than that, where we have done segregation. We will do it ourselves, and we were very successful. They wouldn't let us have it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us keep it. It wasn't, so when you talk about things like that, yeah. So what that does is that's that bully mentality. That creates a mindset of, if we do this, they're going to get us.
Yeah.
What they call it, intimidation tactics.
Absolutely. And it's been going on for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dude from Waiting to Exhale, I'm Wardell something. He, the big guy that can't get enough of your love, baby. He was on CNN, and they messed up and asked him why violence is so prevalent in the African-American community. And he went back in history to how they stole the land and killed all the Indians. I mean, he brought it down. He said, so don't ask me why we're so violent. All that started from y'all.
Wow.
He said, because we would have this land if y'all didn't violently take it and then kidnap our people. He laid it down. So the only thing the lady could say is, well, we're going to go to a commercial.
Funny.
Can I bring this up? Because it's taking you too long. So I was telling Tammy, Dr. Mike, I was torn listening to Malcolm's speech, because I can tell he's 64 and not sooner till like the end of his life, because he's still spouting a lot of that Muslim hypocrisy. So he talked about Black folks staying together, sticking together, working together, but he used every opportunity to take jabs at the church and the nonviolent civil rights movement that stemmed from the Christians. I mean, every turn he was cutting them, gut punching them. And I'm like, now see, you got to be about it. Don't just talk about it. And I understand that's a Muslim thing. And then it's so funny, it's ironic. He's talking about the nonviolent movement. Yeah, Dr. King was assassinated, but so was Malcolm X, and by his own Black Muslim brothers. Yeah. And it's like,
Well, even so with that, and the topic of this podcast, the ballot or the bullet, the truth is that I'm of the belief that you need both. See, so I mean, at the end of the day, you say what you want and stuff, but that's, and my granddad, he actually talked with Dr. King, and that was one of the things. And he said, there's going to be some issues. The nonviolent, and his position was, if you greet me with a smile, I'm greeting you with a smile. Mm-hmm. You greet me with a gun, I'm greeting you with a bigger gun. And so I could see both sides of that particular argument, because Dr. King was the epitome of nonviolence, and his life ended in violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so same thing. We just have to understand that there's things that, once again, we have to accept responsibility for, because the same thing, Malcolm X, who was killed by some of his own folk, and that's the thing that we have to, I mean, you just have to be held accountable regardless. But my thing is that, for a lot of years, what I take issue with is the fact that we were the ones sitting nonviolent honors, trying to segregate and experience violence, these particular things. But I can't help but to think, when you think about the Tulsa situation and the massacre and things like that, these were proven times where we had our own businesses, our own communities, supported each other and stuff like that. So I think we could have made I don't know what else to say other than a mistake trying to integrate with those who didn't want us to integrate with them. We're forcing our dollars on people who are going to give us inferior service and products, and we're begging to be with them when we had our own. And then once it was discovered, hey, they don't need us, they could do some particular things, and they had to shut that down. So all of these things we have to take into consideration because a lot of the times that's what it was. Once we found out, hey, we could do this, and then we were discouraged from doing that, sometimes through violence, through the redlining, through so many different things. But we're a part of a system has been designed to keep us from reaching our true potential. And despite the fact that this system has been in place since the existence, that we do understand, we've still been able to overcome and do some things. But think about how much more, how much greater it would be if we didn't have to go through all this stuff that no one else, and I mean no one else. You could talk about the Jews, you could talk about the Indians that got stores on every corner in your place, all of these places, but yet you still go and give your money to these particular folks while your Black folks are struggling, trying to run businesses and things like that. So I think that we have to look at the whole issue because it's a problem.
So there's this gentleman, his name is King Randall, and he lives in Atlanta, Georgia. He has a youth program that he's only 22 years old. He has a house and he has all these youth in there. And his main thing is do for self. And so he's teaching them how to shoot guns, protect themselves. And he said one of the reasons in his mind, what he believes is that the reason why all these things happen is that we never had our own military and we never built ourselves up to defend ourselves because we trusted that the others were going to treat us right. So do you guys believe that there's any, validity to that?
I don't know if we ever trusted. I think it's more like what Dr. Mike said. We spent so much time trying to push ourselves in, trying to be included, trying to be a part of. But I understand, I can see his outlook. I'm not a guns guy. I talk a lot of talk, but I prefer to live peacefully. However, I do believe it is my God-given right to protect my family.
Yes.
And you can kind of mess with me. I don't even care about that. But if you come from my family, then yeah. Like I might not have a gun. Actually, I lost a gun. But anyway, whatever I have, cast iron skillet, baseball bat, golf club, the Constitution guarantees us the right to bear arms to protect ourselves. So I think the big issue is it just was never intended for us as Africans to be included. We were just supposed to be the kidnapped help.
Yes, I definitely
but they had nothing, no culture, no ideas. They stole everything, just like Black Wall Street. The big issue was really money because they stole the formula for what is today the modern day hotel chain. They got that from the folks at Black Wall Street. See, that's the big issue. If they hadn't done that, Hilton might have been Johnson. You know what I'm saying? I can't think of the guy's name, but
and that's true on a much larger scale that people don't even know about the fact that even when at the time that they were doing like the Tulsa massacre and stuff like that, when they were going around destroying, lynching these Black folks, especially in what they call the Black Wall Street, these people had money in banks. These people had a lot of valuables and stuff. And then what happened was they burned up all their stuff. So they didn't longer have any proof. So banks kept this money and stuff and it's doing the same thing, lending this money to the white folks and stuff with ill-gotten goods that Black folks had worked to get. They kept this stuff and to this particular day, they've been benefited off of the stuff that they stolen from Black folks.
Yeah, they tried to steal the land. Like as soon as it happened, the government tried to take the land away from the people that owned it after they had burned the stuff down.
Right.
And part of the sad part too is even in southern states, people were given land and now they're selling it back and not understanding how important it is to keep all of that stuff in the community.
Look,
they don't.
I would like to point this out without saying my church's name, but one of the things that made my church so unique, especially back in the day, our founder was adamant. Our church banked with the only Black bank at that time, which was, I think it was Drexel. I don't know what they called it before it was Drexel. Of course, they ended up selling it and then it wasn't Black no more. So we moved to another one, but it's like they don't hold on. But all of our leaders and communities, we have got to do better in investing in our Black businesses. So that gives the responsibility now, Black businesses, we need y'all to be business-like. Like,
yeah.
Exactly. That's a true story. Go and I said the reasonable stuff is that I really do. I know folks that they go look for somebody Jewish or somebody that's, as long as they ain't Black, to patronize them. But I totally agree with that statement that I think you should support Black-owned businesses, but I think that Black-owned businesses have to accept responsibility of providing
Definitely.
professional services and goods, and they ain't supporting you because you Black. It's because your goods or products or services just as good or better than anyone else's. See, so that's what I think we have to be very careful of. But there's still what we've talked about, even in Fred and Willie Lynch letter, and from generation to generation, we've been taught not to trust each other and to support everybody except for somebody who looks like us.
Who looks like us.
Definitely.
Oh, and wait, Black people, can you hear me? Listen to me. Listen. Stop going to these Black businesses trying to get a hookup.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pay full price. Yes. Thank you.
You getting excellent service. Stop trying to look from our people to get over on us. Like, don't do that. But the white man, you'll tap dance for them and take whatever they say.
Buy a $300 Coach bag with no problem.
Yeah. Ask them no questions about they hijacked up prices and yeah. What
you had to say, Coach? Huh? I mean, I buy it if it's on sale. I'm just saying.
So, guys, I want to talk about this. And Dr. Mike, you were in the military, guerrilla warfare. He talks about that. So, just like when they infiltrated whatever you call a coup, January 6th in the White House. Nobody knew anything. Well, they knew what they were going to do. They had T-shirts made. They did it all. Do you think that we as a people have that in us to be that tactical? Because we tell everything.
Well, that's the same thing. Story of Fred that we're doing, that we know that there was some stuff going on with John Brown, but some folks told, and traditionally throughout even slavery, you have somebody going back telling massa, about they're planning to escape,
right.
And this stuff going on. But the truth is that, first of all, you have to be realistic. American, and like it or not, whatever they say, but America was built on violence. We've been taking stuff and stealing stuff from folks for a long time. So they can say whatever they want, but that's the truth of how America was built. So along with free slave labor, to which they're still enjoying stuff, and they, even though they tried to acknowledge it by promising us 40 acres and a mule, that never happened. See, so my thing, but we have to be careful in terms of being like those folks in terms of violence, because the truth is, I don't think we can come together with more guns and weapons than they already have. So you got to be realistic about that stuff. So, but it is strategic things that you can do. And some of the stuff you have to look at it. Economically speaking, war is a good thing for them, because that's how they make a lot of money. That's where those contracts begin, the Halliburton stuff with the Vice President Cheney stuff and all this stuff. They do a lot of this stuff making money. This last so-called President Trump guy, stuff that he was doing, he was about making more money, because clearly he didn't have what he was saying he was having when he got in. But while that's different, the point is, you just have to be careful, because if we were equal in terms of having the same type of weaponry and things like that, we could do the training and all of this stuff. Yes. But I don't know if that would work for us. But the thing is that, they talk about fight fire with fire, but what you have to understand is the whole system was designed against us, and you have to take in consideration with even the Constitution and those particular things which they swear and live by and stuff. It said that we weren't even equal at that particular time. We weren't even a full human being. So how do you look at something like that and and admit that not only is it outdated, it wasn't written for us, by us, could care less about, the things that we needed to do to prosper and get the same things that was written in there for the right to pursue happiness and all of these particular things. So we have to start at it. And even in my book, The American Mindset, where I said, if you want to talk about some real change, you got to start stripping away at the crap that was designed to hold us down. And that goes all the way back to the Constitution.
All the way back. How they were intended to fight the 14th Amendment, which really was supposed to guarantee us, was a system that they put in place to criminalize us. Yeah. Because they needed labor. The slaves were free. So they weren't going out there into the field. So that's how the whole criminal system came to be. And the other thing I want to say is specifically about the military. And a lot of people are turning their nose down, specifically at the African-American community, for being suspicious of this COVID-19 vaccination. But let's not act like the military especially has not experimented on our Black soldiers, our Black men and women. That movie with Alfred Woodard, Miss Ava's Boys, something like that, with the whole syphilis. My uncle, who fought in Vietnam, tells the story to this day that they were surrounded in Vietnam by these huge red canisters that they were not allowed to touch. And the canisters had AIDS on it.
Really? Wow.
And, that was the late 60s into the 70s. And it follows the timeline on what blew up in the 80s. And, just like even now, you just cannot make me believe the situation with the pandemic is not chemical warfare. Because I know that it is. All of a sudden, they got a new strand the last couple months that is targeted a certain age group. Don't tell me this ain't chemical warfare.
Yeah. Right.
But again, Dr. Mike said it, that's the history of this country. Violence. And I disagree on one point. Africans were, even today, we are victims of terrorism. Definitely. And that's what needs to be acknowledged. They gave the Jews reparations for being victims of terrorism over in Europe. We need every person of African descent needs to get reparations for the part that we played as victims of terrorism here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes because we're talking about history of this, and this has been happening consistently to this particular day. We have to have a different dialogue with our children and stuff about your interaction with the police. So that's something that you have to understand. We're like, oh yeah, hey, hi Bob, ours is different. Put your hands on the wheel where they can see them. Don't make no sudden movement. They don't have to have these conversations. And so that's the truth. But this is systematically been one of those things that have been passed down generation to generation. And what bothers me and boggles my particular small mind is the simple fact that with all these years, all the things that they've done to all of these particular people, they have never committed the atrocities that they committed against us. And yet you have other people, the Asians, the other people that come over here, and they look down upon African Americans as well. This stuff is worldwide because they see, while there are some things even from in the military. I recall it was true that back in the day, when they would fight and they would catch POW, prisoners of wars, what they would do is let them ride up front and make the Black soldiers that was in the military ride in the back.
Wow.
Now, this is the kind of stuff that I'm saying that, it's just, the white Americans that fought with Black Americans, once they captured enemies of these wars, the enemies could ride up front and the Black soldiers still had to ride in the back.
Wow.
They comprehend how this stuff, and this has never happened to any other group of people. And that's where they have, you can go through the list of whatever in terms of nationalities and stuff, and the whole world looks upon Black folks as the lowest class people. How ridiculous is that? And even as they going back and forth, sometimes that they do this, like in China, where they're saying, well, y'all need to look at how y'all do treat y'all Black folks. It's not because they care about Black folks, it's because they don't want them looking over into their. So it's a whole that's been going on, but it's been systematically designed to keep us down. And I just think that we have to be at a particular place in our lives to say enough is enough. From the 60s marching for civil and equal rights to still doing it today when I'm just that's sick.
Yeah.
And you mentioned worldwide. See, the Europeans want to always distance themselves and say that racism is an American thing. And more we're seeing Great Britain, France, all the Germany. When I was in Germany in 2019, I experienced racism. But it's like the Europeans are single-handedly responsible. You know, did we forget apartheid and how the Europeans went over in South Africa and just, you know, they were in war for years. It's still not peaceful in so many areas over there. The Europeans. I won't say white. The Europeans. Is that bad? That a little better?
So I have a question. How do you think that we could, because part of it is like you guys were saying, it was set up this way. So do you think that we need to begin with us and deprogram our mentality in order to move forward? What is the solution to all of this? Because think about it. Everything that's in this speech is pretty much still happening today. There's not a big difference of anything different. The voter suppression happened back then, happening today. We still religious wise, still happening. You know, what do we need to do? What is the solution? What can we do differently?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things. I don't believe that I'm aware there's one particular thing that we can do is going to fix everything. Mm-hmm. But in terms of a lot of this stuff, one of the things is the fact that we do have to educate our youth. We do have to let them know. And we have to have some truthful dialogue, even with the adults, and not just for Black folk. Because like we talk about in our Fred production, Black history is not just for Black folk. See, because some white folks still don't know the real history and the contributions that African Americans have made to this particular country. And some of them, once they know, still don't want to believe. And so, you know, I don't think it could be one thing, because then even some of our folks, and what you'll find is there have always been those particular people then that, you know, oh yeah, well, Massa's all right. Massa treat us right. He give us, you know, the hog maws from the hog and, you know, the chitlins and stuff. Oh, so Massa treats me real nice. So you got to be careful of those folks with that mentality, because even though they're Black or African Americans, they still don't have the mentality to understand that they too are being used and abused, and it's been systematically embedded into our folks. So that now we think it's okay. So I think there's a number of things, but I think education, real education, is important, because even now when they look at now, what you're finding is, think about these schools and things like that. Because of the COVID and the pandemic and stuff, they're like, whoa, give us our money back, because we didn't sign up for this. We're at home doing the study and all this stuff, because it's more for the social environment, to get together with your folks and do that, participate in the extracurricular activity and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, what they'll find is that schools aren't necessarily educating our folks for the real world, you know, and the fact that we really should be looking at entrepreneurship and how can Definitely. We do more than get a job. So it's but I think education is extremely important. And then we have to have those resources, because you can legislate all you want and say, okay, stop racism, slavery is over, but everybody around you still see you as a slave and still treat you accordingly. Law can't change your heart. What you have been accustomed to, what you do, what you've known. This guy's been doing everything, working for you for free and stuff, and all of a sudden wake up one day and say, oh no, he don't have to do that no more. You looking at him like, look, I don't care what they said, you better get back out there in that field. So it's these things that we have to take in consideration. But I believe overall, until we get to a particular place where we understand the importance of economics, the power of our dollar, I think it's going to be hard. So I think with education, because they say a fool and his money soon go separate ways. And that's because if you're not educated, you're going to do the same thing. They can give you 40 acres in the mule. You can go take it right over to Joe Cadillac and get stuff that he has, instead of helping to build your community and become self-sustaining. So it's a lot of different things that go in that. So while I don't think it's any one particular thing, I think some of the important things is the economics, and then the proper education, and then understanding. Your brother is not responsible for you not doing what you're supposed to do. And by that, all I'm simply saying is that, you know, we have to accept responsibility for some stuff, you know, and then understand that, you know, just because your brother succeeds, that's not causing you to fail. And how
Right.
we have to help each other. And Jay talked about the crab bag mentality. That's the thing. We have to get past those things. So I think with those three issues, that could help us to achieve what we need to achieve. But I think it's going to be a long haul because generation after generation, these things been poured into us. They've been lies, and we bought them. So that's what we have to do. And then, that I don't know any other politically correct way. And y'all know I'm not politically correct, but they think the white folks' ice is colder, their juice is sweeter, and their milk is fresher. All this nonsense. And so we have to keep these things in mind that what Jay said earlier, we can't go in there because there's a black on, hey, hook me up, we got to hold them accountable at the same time support them with our dollars, not just bunch of lip service. We have to support our folks to get to those particular places. And it's a shame to think we were in a position where we had businesses that our folks supported. Unfortunately, because we had to, because they didn't want you in the other establishments. But it wasn't until they found out how important that was that they decided, oh no, and they wanted to destroy that. That's the stuff that we're still dealing with. So it's sad, but it's not hopeless.
No, it's never hopeless. The only thing I would add is that specifically because we're talking about the ballot and the bullet. Dr. Mike mentioned something that's so important. The reason education is so fundamentally important is because we have to train the young people up so that they can be in a position to lead. We wouldn't have so many reservations about who to vote for if we trained our people up and gave them the mindset, you're leaders.
Yes.
We need you to lead our community. Then we could take over because they call us the minority when really we're the majority. We just still have that minority mentality that was taught to us. And so I'm not talking about a physical bullet. That's the bullet right there that pierces, is that we're really greater than. They fed us these lies from generation to generation. And all of us have fallen for the okie doke. Because a lot of, our young Caucasian family, they don't know. They fell for it too. And then when they start learning, a lot of them are crushed because they didn't know. They understand some of what has happened. But we have got to take the responsibility to reclaim our communities. We should not be in a position where we are too afraid to say something to the young boy, the young girl on the street. Our families have got to do better and raise these kids with some respect for community. We are the only group of people, ethnic group, that I know of that will come and destroy our own neighborhoods. You go over to the Mexicans, and this is going to sound real bad. You go in the Mexican neighborhood, the grass is going to be cut, and them bricks are going to be laid well. You go over in Chinatown, they're going to be packed like this on top of each other, but it's going to be clean. You go in the hood, and I swear before the Lord above, it's enough to make you cry. But again, I can't blame my people because this is how we have been conditioned. They've told us and trained us generation after generation that we're nothing, that we deserve garbage. What do? We take and make chitlins out of it. That's a delicacy. But some of these things we have got to let go so we can come to a higher mindset.
Absolutely. And not only that, but I totally agree how important it is. But some of the things that we have to look at and why education is still important, to understand some of the things that they're doing to us with our eyes open, and they're able to do this because they're like, oh, look over here, here's R. Kelly, and then they're doing something else over here. One of those particular things is something as simple as when we were talking about the voting stuff, one of the things that many people aren't aware of, while they're filling up the jails with black folks, the prisons with black folks, and primarily through the 13th Amendment, they're allowed, and it's nothing more than slavery, that they get stuff for, cents and stuff. It's slavery in itself. But one of the things that many people aren't aware of is the fact that, when you incarcerate them, you take them from their home, send them to some other place, sometimes states away from where they are. And what a lot of folks are not aware of is what they do is these censuses and stuff, you're counting the people in a prison population as your residents, which means you've got more people now that are in your district, which means you have more representation, but it's not the representation equaling what's happening because those folks in prison can't vote, but they're being counted in that place that they are in order to get those white communities more representation, more funding, and stuff like that. Wow. None of which folks get to enjoy, especially those who are prisoners. And so all of this has to be changed. It goes right back to the things, like I said, until you go back to that Constitution and say, you know, our forefathers held because our forefathers didn't give a damn about us, you know. And so when they wrote that, and even what Jay was alluding to earlier about Abe Lincoln, Abe Lincoln freed the slaves. Abe Lincoln knew what he had to do to make a deal in order to get some stuff done with these states in order to do what he wanted to do. So these are the things that we have to be aware of. We have to know these particular things and be careful, or else they'll continue the same okey doke to pull the wool over your eyes, do the same thing that they're doing. And some of the stuff that they're doing now, they clean it up to make it sound however it does, but it's the same thing that they've been doing for years. They still doing it now.
Yeah. Very true. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts you guys have? Anything you want to share about what's going on with you guys?
Well, all I have to say is that I'm of the that we can't give up. No matter what, we can't give up. We've been fighting so long, and y'all, many of us through the color purple know we said, like, I had to fight all my life, you know, and that's the truth. But the thing is that I believe that while we have, and I acknowledge the fact that we have made some strides, we have done some things, we have contributed to some particular changes. But one of the issues that is still bothering me and is the fact that when you go into some of these most impoverished communities and see who's owns the corner store in your community, who owns the gas stations in your community. And I say we're being taxed all the time because I drive through all the time different communities and I see the same gas station franchise, whether it's AMCO, BP, or whoever it is. In one neighborhood, this is the price, and in your neighborhood, it's a higher price. This is even with food and everything. And right now, I'm so frustrated with the pandemic, COVID price stuff that's happening. They're gouging people right now, talking about, oh, well, because of COVID. Oh, hell no. It's because a lot of greedy folks are still continuing to get rich. The oil stuff. They have all this stuff, and then in the communities, the prices are so high, it's ridiculous. They say, interrupted the pipeline and stuff. That's some nonsense. This is them taking advantage of it. And that's why we're heading right into this inflationary period, because all of these folks say, oh, now we're opening up. Let's make up for some money that we lost in the past. And they're got these crazy prices and stuff. So I just think that we have to start off by knowing what's going on. Then we have to come together and do something about it. I just want you to know that I'm never going to be at that particular point where I believe that the situation is hopeless. I believe we can do some stuff. I believe it's going to take some time, some commitment, some sacrifice. But until then, I think that we're going to face a lot of the struggles that we've been facing until we understand the importance of those things. Educating ourselves, our youth, making sure that they understand. Also economically understanding how important our dollars are, and that we should be the ones that decide who gets our dollars. And so with these particular things, I just can't help but to think that if we continue to vote like folks, get people like Jay into politics to do some real good in the hood and stuff like that, I think until we come to the conclusion that we have to do those particular things, they're going to continue to take advantage of us. So I just want to encourage us to don't give up. No matter what the situation appears to be, we cannot give up because a change can come.
So Dr. Wilkins, can you also, before we get to Jay, can you also talk about your youth program that you do have right now?
Yeah, we have a program that we wrote called Choices and Consequences, and Connected by Love, Chances, Choices, and Changes. we wrote these particular programs to be able to actually provide some training for youth in our communities who not only need this, but could benefit the most from this. So we do this program the last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of each month. We do a training online, virtually, and of course, we're now beginning to open it up to some of the live training as well. But this training and the workbooks that we created, with Tammy being a contributing author to one of the ones, Jay also was one of the contributing authors to our and some others. But the thing is that we have to understand that this was a program created for us, by us, to ensure our youth that there's still an opportunity for them to do something, because the choices that you make today can affect you years from now. And that's what we have to understand, how important it is that the choices that you make right now could give you an opportunity, a better opportunity to do some things and not fall for the stuff that the system has laid out before us. So I encourage folks, they can visit our website, www.spatheater.org or www.spausa.org or
he's going out there.
Yeah.
7371. That's 17 about these programs. The programs are specifically no any of the youth that participate in. In fact, we give them incentives such as gift cards and things like that if they participate and complete the program. It's an 8-hour program. We generally do a couple and a half hours a day over a 3-day period or something. But I just think it's a wonderful opportunity. And the feedback from the youth that's been involved in these programs are that it's a wonderful program. And so if the youth are benefiting from it, some of the challenges that we have is just the parents don't cooperate. So this is the things that we understand that's important, and we're going to do whatever we can to continue to make this stuff happen. And it's our contribution to what we call doing some good in the hood.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you being on the show. All right, Mr. Collins, final words and what's going on?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. I still, what I said earlier, I think that's the key. We have got to require our leaders to do what they promised to do, so that we don't have to keep voting them out. We need to make sure to vote the right ones in first. And then those that are in, we got to stay on them to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I don't care how upset I become with these United States of America, how bleak things may be. And I'm telling you, after Philando Castile, I was really ready to pack up and move to Canada. But I leave off right where I started, if I can quote Frederick Douglass. And that's what hope.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So tell us what's going on with you, about your books, about, different things. So how can the people, get in contact with you?
We have a new website, www.jcollinsbooks.com. And my second book should have been finished, but I had some things that superseded, like our production that's coming on Juneteenth, Fred, that superseded. So that's all right. But if you guys get a chance, go on the SPA website and catch the on demand of Fred. I'm telling you, it is something that will cause dialogue with you and your family. Use this to bridge the generation gap, start a conversation between grandparents and grandkids and kids and aunts and uncles. These are things Dr. Mike said before, we pass these stories on. We can't stop doing that. We have to tell our history right if we want it told, correctly. But these are things that we have to do. And this production of Fred, which is being shown on June 19th in honor of Juneteenth celebration, is one way to start that.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. This was awesome. I'm telling you, guys did a phenomenal job. So
thank you. Congratulations. 1 year. You took a dream, made it manifest into a reality. So congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
I see you got your good anniversary hair on today. All right.
I do. Yes, I do.
And I did say the same thing. I'm so encouraged by what Tammy has been able to do, through all the things that she's done, through her writing, her contributions to the theater, and so much more. I think your stuff is just another example of the many phenomenal that you can do. While folks talk about doing stuff, you're actually doing those things. So I wanted to congratulate you as well and say thank you for the job well done.
All right, thank you guys. So again, thank you guys for watching and listening to Connected by Love. What happens in this house stays in this house. Strength Over Silence podcast. And guys, create a great week. Have a go.